Captain Elena Vasquez stood on the bridge of the UES Harmony, watching the stars through the main display. The ship moved smoothly through space toward their meeting point. In just a few hours, humanity would make contact with aliens for the first time. The thought made her heart race with excitement and fear. The Harmony was not a warship. It was built for diplomacy, with comfortable meeting rooms, translation computers, and scientific equipment. The ship's white hull gleamed in the starlight, decorated with symbols of peace from every nation on Earth. Elena had commanded many ships before, but none carried such importance. "Captain, we are 2 hours from the meeting coordinates," reported Lieutenant Commander James Park from his station. His voice was steady, but Elena could hear the tension underneath. Everyone on the ship felt it. Elena nodded and walked around the bridge, checking each station. They were the best linguists, scientists, and diplomats humanity could offer. Dr. Sarah Kim worked at the science station, running final checks on their scanning equipment. Ambassador Chen sat in his chair, reviewing his notes for the 100th time that day. "Any word from Earth?" Elena asked. "President Martinez sent her final message an hour ago," Chen replied. "The whole world is watching. No pressure at all." He smiled, but his hands shook slightly as he held his datapad. Elena understood his nerves. 6 months ago, Earth had received mathematical signals from space. The patterns were clearly made by intelligent beings. After weeks of careful study, scientists decoded the message. The aliens called themselves the Zephyrian Collective. They had detected human expansion into nearby star systems and wanted to meet. The messages that followed were polite and peaceful. The Zephyrians spoke of trade, sharing knowledge, and friendship between their species. They suggested meeting in the Kepler 442 system, a neutral location between human and Zephyrian space. Humanity had agreed eagerly. Dr. Kim looked up from her console. "Captain, I'm still reading no other ships in the area. We're alone out here." "Good," Elena said. The Zephyrians wanted a private meeting, just 2 species getting to know each other. She paused at the forward display, looking at the empty space ahead. Soon, alien ships would appear there. Ships built by minds completely different from human ones. Ambassador Chen joined her at the display. "Do you think they look like us?" he asked. "Probably not," Elena replied. "But that doesn't matter. What matters is that they reached out to us peacefully. They could have attacked our colonies, but instead they sent math equations and poetry." The Zephyrian messages had included more than just coordinates. They shared examples of their art, complex mathematical patterns that somehow felt beautiful to human eyes. They sent samples of their music, strange but haunting melodies that used sounds humans had never heard before. Most importantly, they shared their language, helping humans build translation programs. Elena walked to the communication station. "Any problems with the translator?" "No, ma'am," replied Ensign Torres. "We've tested it with every Zephyrian message we received. The program should handle real-time conversation without problems." Dr. Kim stood up from her station. "Captain, can I speak with you privately?" Elena raised an eyebrow, but nodded. They walked to the ready room beside the bridge. Once the door closed, Dr. Kim's calm expression changed to one of worry. "I've been thinking about something," Kim said. "The Zephyrian technology is clearly more advanced than ours. Their ships can travel faster, their computers are better, and they found us before we found them." "That's why this meeting is so important," Elena replied. "We can learn from them." "But why do they want to meet us at all?" Kim asked. "Think about it. When humans discover a new animal species, we study it. We don't try to have conversations with mice or dogs." Elena frowned. "You think they see us as animals?" "I think they see us as something less advanced. The question is what they plan to do about that." Kim sat down heavily. "I've read every message they sent. They're polite, but they never actually call us equals." Elena considered this. She had read the same messages and felt only excitement. But Kim was right. The Zephyrians always spoke as if they were offering help to younger species, like adults speaking to children. Even if that's true, Elena said finally, this meeting is our chance to prove them wrong, to show that humans deserve respect. Kim nodded slowly. I hope you're right, Captain. They returned to the bridge, where the crew continued their preparations. Ambassador Chen practiced his opening speech one more time. The linguistics team ran final tests on their equipment. The cultural experts reviewed everything they knew about Zephyrian society. Elena took her seat in the captain's chair and thought about the journey that brought them here. Humanity had reached for the stars for centuries. They built rockets, space stations, and finally ships that could travel between worlds. They found empty planets and dead rocks, but never life. Then the signals came, proof that humans were not alone in the universe. The discovery changed everything on Earth. People stopped fighting over small differences when faced with the vast cosmos, full of other minds. 1 hour to the meeting point, Park announced. In 1 hour, everything would change. Either humanity would gain new friends among the stars, or they would learn that the galaxy was more dangerous than they imagined. All stations, prepare for first contact, she ordered. The crew moved with practiced efficiency. Dr. Kim activated the ship's sensors to their maximum range. The communications team opened channels on every frequency the Zephyrians had used. Ambassador Chen straightened his formal uniform and checked his translation device one last time. Elena looked around the bridge at her crew. These 50 people represented all of humanity in this moment. They carried the hopes and dreams of billions of people back on Earth. Children everywhere looked up at the night sky, wondering if today they would learn about new friends living among the stars. Contact in 30 minutes, Park reported. Elena gripped the arms of her chair and stared ahead at the empty space where alien ships would soon appear. Whatever happened next would echo through human history forever. She just hoped they were ready for what was coming. The Zephyrian ships appeared exactly when they said they would. One moment, the space ahead was empty. The next, 3 beautiful vessels materialized, like dreams becoming real. Captain Elena Vasquez stared in wonder. She had expected alien ships to look strange, but nothing prepared her for what she saw. The Zephyrian vessels looked like they were made of crystal and light. Their hulls seemed to bend the starlight around them, creating rainbow patterns that shifted and flowed. They were not just ships, they were works of art. My God, whispered Dr. Kim from her station. They're beautiful. The largest ship was twice the size of the Harmony, shaped like a graceful teardrop that seemed to float rather than fly. The 2 smaller vessels looked like crystalline flowers, their surfaces covered in delicate patterns that glowed with soft blue light. Receiving transmission, reported Ensign Torres. They're using the agreed frequency. Elena straightened in her chair. Put it on screen. The main display flickered, then showed the interior of an alien ship. Elena gasped. Standing before them was a being unlike anything in human imagination. The Zephyrian was tall and thin, almost 3 meters high. Its skin was translucent, like looking through colored glass. Patterns of light moved beneath the surface, blues, greens, and purples that flowed like gentle waves. The alien's face was roughly humanoid, with large eyes that seemed to hold depth beyond measure. When it moved, it was with a grace that made Elena think of dancers or flowing water. Greetings, humans of Earth, the being said through their translation system. Its voice sounded like wind chimes mixed with music. I am Fleet Commander Thalos of the Zephyrian Collective. We welcome you to this meeting between our species. Elena stood up. Fleet Commander, I am Captain Elena Vasquez of the United Earthship Harmony. On behalf of all humanity, I thank you for this historic moment. Thalos's light patterns shifted to what Elena hoped was pleasure. We have traveled far to meet you, young species. Our scientists have observed your rapid expansion among the stars. Most impressive for being so new to space travel. Ambassador Chen stepped forward. We bring greetings from Earth and hope for friendship between our peoples. Would you honor us by meeting face to face? The aliens' patterns flowed in new configurations. Elena worried they had said something wrong, but then Thalos replied. Face to face, yes, this is the proper way for first meetings. You may come aboard our vessel, or we will come to yours. Elena and Chen exchanged glances. They had planned for this moment. We would be honored to visit your ship, if you will accept the same courtesy later. Prepare your delegation. We will guide your small craft to our vessel. 20 minutes later, Elena watched Ambassador Chen lead a small team toward the shuttle bay. Dr. Kim went with him, along with 2 linguists and a cultural expert. They carried carefully chosen gifts from Earth, art, music, literature, and examples of human technology. The shuttle launch went smoothly. Elena tracked its progress on the main screen as it approached the largest Zephyrian ship. The alien vessel opened like a flower, revealing a landing bay that glowed with warm, welcoming light. They're aboard, reported Park. All readings normal. For the next 2 hours, Elena paced the bridge while her people met with aliens for the first time in human history. Finally, Chen's voice came over the communication system. Captain, you need to hear this, he said, and his voice carried pure excitement. They're offering to share technologies we've only dreamed of. Clean energy systems that could power Earth for thousands of years. Material science that could revolutionize space travel. Elena felt her heart leap. What do they want in return? They're fascinated by human culture, Chen replied. Our art, our music, our stories. They say they've never encountered a species with such diversity of thought and creativity. They want to learn everything about us. Dr. Kim's voice joined the conversation. Captain, their ship is incredible. They grow their technology rather than building it. These vessels are partially alive, working together with their crews. And the Zephyrians themselves, they're not just beautiful, they're genuinely peaceful. Their entire society is built around harmony and cooperation. Elena smiled broadly. This was everything humanity had hoped for. Not just first contact, but contact with a species that could teach them so much. The fleet commander wants to know if we would accept a formal exchange, Chen continued. A group of Zephyrians would visit Earth, while some humans go to their home system, cultural and scientific ambassadors. Tell them we're very interested, Elena replied, but I'll need to discuss it with Earth Command. Several more hours passed in detailed conversations. The human delegation returned to the Harmony with amazing stories and recordings of alien technology. Chen could barely contain his excitement as he described Zephyrian art that existed in 4 dimensions, music that could be felt as well as heard, and scientific concepts that challenged human understanding. Dr. Kim was equally impressed by Zephyrian biology. They're energy beings as much as physical ones, she explained to Elena in the briefing room. They can share thoughts and emotions through those light patterns under their skin. It's like they're all connected in a vast network of minds. And they seem genuinely peaceful? Elena asked. Absolutely, Kim replied. Everything about their society focuses on avoiding conflict. They've had peace for thousands of years. Ambassador Chen added his own observations. They're curious about us, but also protective. Like older siblings, watching out for younger ones. I get the feeling they see themselves as guides for less advanced species. Elena nodded thoughtfully. This matched what Dr. Kim had worried about earlier. But in practice, the Zephyrians seemed genuinely benevolent. The next day brought even more positive developments. The Zephyrians demonstrated some of their technologies, showing how they could manipulate energy and matter in ways that seemed like magic. In return, the humans shared their own achievements, their music, their literature, and their remarkable ability to work together despite their differences. Fleet Commander Thalos seemed particularly interested in human emotional expression. "Your species feels things so intensely," the alien observed. "We experience harmony and contentment, but you know joy, sorrow, anger, love, such powerful forces. How do you function with such chaos in your minds?" Chen smiled. "We've learned to make that chaos into strength. Our different feelings and ideas drive us to create new things, to explore, to grow." The light patterns under Thalos' skin swirled with what looked like fascination. "Perhaps we have much to learn from each other indeed." As the second day of meetings concluded, Elena felt confident that humanity had found true friends among the stars. The Zephyrians were everything they appeared to be: advanced, peaceful, and genuinely interested in helping younger species develop. She had no idea that everything was about to change. Dr. Sarah Kim could not shake the feeling that something was wrong. She sat at her science station on the second day of meetings, watching the data from their sensors. Everything appeared normal, but small details nagged at her mind, like stones in her shoe. The problem started during the technology demonstrations. When Fleet Commander Thalos explained Zephyrian energy systems, the light patterns under his skin showed excitement and pride. But when Ambassador Chen asked specific questions about how the systems worked, those same patterns shifted to something else. Something that did not match the translated words. Kim had studied the Zephyrian language files for months. She knew that their bioluminescent patterns carried as much meaning as their spoken words. During the first day, both matched perfectly. But now, she noticed small differences, hesitations, conflicts between what they said and what their bodies showed. She ran another passive scan of the Zephyrian ships while pretending to check other systems. The Harmony sensors were designed for science, not warfare, but they could detect basic energy signatures and structural details. What she found made her stomach drop. The beautiful crystalline hulls were not as simple as they appeared. Hidden beneath the artistic surfaces were dense structures that looked suspiciously like weapons. Energy conduits ran to points along the hull that could only be gun positions. The ships were not just vessels, they were warships disguised as peaceful craft. Kim glanced around the bridge. Captain Vasquez stood near the communication station, listening to the latest reports from the meeting with the aliens. Ambassador Chen's voice came through the speakers, describing plans for cultural exchanges and shared research projects. Kim needed to be sure before she raised an alarm. She adjusted her sensors to deeper frequencies, ones the Zephyrians might not expect humans to detect. The results confirmed her fears. All three alien ships carried weapons that made human military technology look like children's toys. Worse, the ships were slowly moving. Over the past 6 hours, they had shifted position to form a triangle around the Harmony. Any escape route was blocked. Kim felt sweat break out on her forehead. She activated a private communication channel to speak with her captain, without alerting the Zephyrians who might be monitoring their systems. "Captain," she said quietly, "I need to speak with you privately. It's urgent." Vasquez looked over, saw Kim's pale face, and nodded. They met in the briefing room beside the bridge, away from listening devices. "What is it, Doctor?" Vasquez asked. "The Zephyrian ships are not what they seem," Kim said quickly. "They're armed, heavily armed, and they've moved to surround us." Vasquez frowned. "Are you certain?" Kim showed her the sensor data on a portable display. "Look at these energy readings. Those aren't art installations, they're weapon systems. And here, these movement patterns. They're positioning themselves to trap us." Vasquez studied the information, her expression growing darker with each detail. "How long have they been moving?" "Since yesterday evening. Very slowly, very carefully, but definitely moving into attack formation." "What else?" Kim hesitated, then continued. I've been watching their light patterns during conversations. They don't always match their words. When we ask certain questions about technology or their society, they're lying. Vasquez sat down hard in her chair. Are you saying this whole meeting is a trap? I think it might be, Kim replied. Or at least, I think we're being evaluated for something other than friendship. As if summoned by her fears, Ensign Torres's voice came over the ship's communication system. Captain, we're receiving unusual transmissions from the Zephyrian ships. They're not using the frequencies we established for our meetings. Vasquez and Kim rushed back to the bridge. What kind of transmissions? The captain asked. Torres looked confused. They appear to be talking to each other, but not in the same language they use with us. The computer is trying to decode it now. Can you isolate the signals? Kim asked. Already working on it, Torres replied. She worked at her console for several minutes while the bridge crew watched nervously. Finally, she looked up with a troubled expression. I've got a partial translation. Captain, I think you need to hear this. Torres played the intercepted communication through the bridge speakers. The translation computer struggled with the alien words, but the meaning became clear enough. Target species shows adequate intelligence, but limited military capability, came a mechanical voice translating the alien speech. Technology level, approximately 2,000 cycles behind standard. Recommends standard integration protocol. Another alien voice responded. Biological diversity is unusual but manageable. Emotional instability may require conditioning programs. How long for complete evaluation? Evaluation phase nearly complete. Species shows potential for useful labor classes. Recommend termination of diplomatic facade within 6 cycles. The bridge fell silent. Kim felt her blood turn to ice. Ambassador Chen and his team were still aboard the Zephyrian ship, completely unaware of the danger. Vasquez's voice was deadly quiet. Integration protocol. Labor classes. They're not here to be friends. It sounds like they're here to conquer us, Park said from the station. Kim's worst fears were confirmed. They probably do this to every species they encounter. Peaceful contact, evaluation, then absorption into their empire. And Chen is over there right now, Vasquez said, along with 4 other people. Torres continued monitoring the alien communications. Captain, there's more. They're discussing our home system. They already have ships moving toward Earth. Vasquez felt the walls closing in. The Harmony was trapped, surrounded by superior forces. Earth was under threat, and humanity's first contact was turning into a nightmare. Options? She asked grimly. Park checked his navigation display. With their current positions, we can't run. They're faster than us, and they have us surrounded. Kim added her analysis. Their weapons are decades beyond ours. In a straight fight, we wouldn't last 5 minutes. Vasquez walked to the main display, staring at the beautiful alien ships that were really predators in disguise. Somewhere on the largest vessel, Ambassador Chen was still playing diplomat, unaware that he was talking to conquerors who saw humans as potential slaves. Can we warn Earth? She asked. Not without alerting them that we know, Torres replied. And even if we could, what could Earth do? If they have ships heading for our home system, they're probably already there. Vasquez closed her eyes, thinking furiously. There had to be something they could do. Some way to escape, or fight back, or at least warn their people aboard the alien ship. Then she remembered something from the mission briefings. Something about backup protocols and contingency plans. A cold smile spread across her face as she realized that perhaps not everything was lost after all. Dr. Kim, she said quietly. How good are our passive sensors at detecting cloaked ships? Kim looked puzzled. Cloaked ships? Captain, we don't have cloaking technology. Vasquez's smile grew wider. No, we don't, but I think we're about to find out that someone else does. She turned to Torres. Send a transmission to Earth Command, standard diplomatic update, but use emergency code 7 in the header. Torres's eyes widened as she understood. Emergency code 7, yes ma'am. As Torres began transmitting, Vasquez looked back at the alien ships on the display. The Zephyrians thought they had found easy prey. They were about to learn that humans were harder to catch than they appeared. Space itself seemed to tear open. Captain Elena Vasquez watched in amazement as reality twisted 10,000 kilometers away. Stars bent and warped as if looking through broken glass. Then, like a mountain rising from the ocean, the UES Retribution emerged from nothingness. The massive battleship was a kilometer long and bristling with weapons. Its dark gray hull was covered in gun turrets, missile pods, and energy cannons that could crack planets. Where the Zephyrian ships looked like art, the Retribution looked like death itself. Dr. Kim gasped from her station. "Captain, where did that come from?" "Cloaking technology," Vasquez said with satisfaction. "Turns out we've been busy since we started expanding into space." On the main display, the three Zephyrian ships suddenly looked small and fragile. The beautiful crystalline vessels that had seemed so powerful now appeared delicate next to the human warship. The light patterns under Fleet Commander Thalus's skin were flashing rapidly in what could only be panic. Lieutenant Commander Park stared at his sensor readings. "Captain, that ship is massive. The weapon signatures are off the charts. How long has it been out there?" "Long enough," Vasquez replied. She was no longer the nervous diplomat trying to make first contact. Now she was a military officer who had just watched the trap close on the trappers. The communication system crackled to life with a new voice, deep, commanding, and absolutely confident. "This is Captain Marcus Steele of the Terran Defense Force Battleship Retribution. Zephyrian vessels, you have exactly 60 seconds to explain why your weapons are trained on our diplomatic ship." The bridge fell silent, except for the hum of equipment. Even Dr. Kim stopped working to listen. Steele's voice carried the authority of someone who was used to being obeyed without question. On the display, Fleet Commander Thalus appeared to be struggling to respond. The alien's graceful movements had become jerky and confused. Finally, words came through the translation system. "There has been a misunderstanding," Thalus said, but his voice lacked the musical quality from before. "We meant no threat to your vessel." "Interesting," Captain Steele replied, "because we've been monitoring your communications for the past several hours. Would you like me to broadcast them for everyone to hear?" Vasquez smiled grimly. She had hoped that Emergency Code 7 would bring backup, but she never expected anything like this. The Retribution was not just a warship. It was a statement that humanity was far more dangerous than they appeared. The intercepted Zephyrian communications began playing on all frequencies. Every ship in the area could hear the aliens discussing humans as potential slaves, talking about integration protocols and labor classes. The peaceful facade was completely destroyed. "Fleet Commander Thalos," Steele continued, his voice now carrying an edge of controlled anger, "you have violated every diplomatic protocol by approaching our ship under false pretenses with hostile intent. You have approximately 40 seconds to convince me not to consider this an act of war." The alien commander's light patterns were now flashing in rapid, chaotic bursts. When he spoke, even the translation system seemed to struggle with his panic. "We did not intend hostility," Thalos said desperately. "This is standard evaluation procedure. We offer guidance to younger species." "Guidance?" Steele's voice could have cut steel. "Is that what you call planning to turn us into slave labor?" 20 seconds. Dr. Kim looked up from her console with wide eyes. "Captain, the Zephyrian ships are powering down their weapons." "Smart move," Vasquez said. She opened a communication channel to the Retribution. "Captain Steele, this is Captain Vasquez. We still have 5 people aboard the alien flagship." "Noted, Captain. We're tracking them." Steele's voice softened slightly when speaking to the Harmony crew. "Fleet Commander Thalos, you will immediately return our personnel unharmed. Then you and I are going to have a very serious conversation about your Empire's expansion policies." Vasquez watched her displays as the situation continued to unfold. The Zephyrian ships were not just powering down weapons, they were backing away from the Harmony, giving the human diplomatic vessel room to maneuver. The Predators had become prey in a matter of minutes. "Captain Vasquez," came Ambassador Chen's voice over the communication system. He sounded confused and worried. "What's happening out there?" "The Zephyrians are acting very strangely all of a sudden." "Come home, Ambassador," Vasquez replied. "Bring everyone with you. We need to have a debriefing." 20 minutes later, the human delegation was safely back aboard the Harmony. Chen and his team looked bewildered as they sat in the main briefing room, listening to the recorded communications that revealed the Zephyrians' true intentions. "They were going to enslave us?" Chen asked in disbelief. "But they seemed so peaceful, so interested in our culture." "They were interested," Dr. Kim replied grimly. "They wanted to know how we think, so they could control us better." Chen slumped in his chair. "I feel like a fool. They played me completely." "They played all of us," Vasquez said. But apparently, someone was ready for this possibility. As if summoned by her words, Captain Steele's voice came over the communication system. "Please prepare to receive a priority transmission from Earth Command." The main display activated, showing Admiral Sarah Martinez at Earth Command headquarters. Her expression was serious, but satisfied. "Captain Vasquez, Ambassador Chen," the Admiral began. "First, congratulations on a successful mission." Chen looked confused. "Successful? Admiral, the first contact was a disaster." Admiral Martinez smiled slightly. "Actually, it went exactly as planned. The Harmony was never alone out there. The Retribution has been shadowing you since you left Earth space, along with 2 other battleships." Vasquez felt pieces clicking together in her mind. This was all a test. "Exactly," Martinez confirmed. "We learned long ago that any species capable of interstellar travel could be either a friend or an enemy. Every first contact protocol includes preparations for betrayal. The diplomatic mission was genuine, but so was our readiness for war." Kim leaned forward. "You expected them to try something like this?" "We hoped they wouldn't," Martinez replied, "but we prepared for the possibility." Captain Steele's task force was ready to intervene the moment things went wrong. On the main display, Admiral Martinez's expression grew more serious. "The Zephyrians are not the first species to use peaceful contact as a cover for conquest. Our intelligence suggests they've absorbed at least 12 other civilizations using the same method." Chen sat up straighter. "What happens now?" "Now," Martinez said, "we're going to have a very different conversation with the Zephyrian collective. One based on mutual respect, rather than predator and prey." Through the forward display, Vasquez could see the massive bulk of the Retribution positioning itself between the Harmony and the alien ships. The beautiful crystalline vessels looked tiny and helpless next to the human warship. Captain Steele's voice returned to the communication channels. "Fleet Commander Thalos, this is your final warning. You will stand down all systems and prepare to receive new terms for contact between our species. The age of easy conquests is over." Fleet Commander Thalos looked very different now. The graceful alien who had spoken of peace and cooperation was gone. In his place stood a being whose light patterns flashed with fear and confusion. The beautiful bioluminescent displays under his translucent skin now looked more like warning signals. Captain Marcus Steele's voice filled the communication channels, calm and controlled, despite the massive firepower at his command. "Fleet Commander, we are going to discuss new terms for contact between our species. Terms based on actual equality rather than deception." Thalos struggled to respond. The translation system carried his words, but they lacked the musical quality they had possessed during the false peaceful contact. Captain Steele, we did not expect such military capability from your species. That was the point, Steele replied dryly. Now you have a choice. We can start over with honest communication, or you can explain to your superiors why 3 of your ships were destroyed while attempting to enslave a supposedly primitive species. Captain Elena Vasquez watched from the bridge of the Harmony as the conversation continued. The power balance had shifted completely. The Zephyrian ships that had seemed so advanced and dangerous now cowered under the guns of the Retribution. Ambassador Chen sat beside her, still trying to process what had happened. I can't believe they fooled me so completely, he said quietly. They fooled all of us, Vasquez replied, but that's why we had backup plans. Dr. Kim looked up from her science station. Captain, I'm reading massive power buildups in the Retribution's weapon systems. Whatever Captain Steele is planning, he's ready for a fight. On the main display, Fleet Commander Thalos attempted to regain some dignity. Captain Steele, what terms do you propose? First, Steele replied, you will immediately contact your home system and call off any ships moving toward Earth space. Thalos's light patterns shifted to what Kim recognized as surprise. How did you know about fleet movements in our space? Because we've been watching you for longer than you think, Steele said. Call them off. Now. The alien commander hesitated, then began speaking in rapid bursts to his own ships. Kim monitored the communications and nodded to Vasquez. He's ordering the withdrawal of their forces. Good start, Steele continued. Second, you will provide us with complete information about your empire's expansion methods. How many other species have you absorbed using these tactics? I cannot reveal military information, Thalos stammered. Then let me help you, Steele replied. His tone suggested he was enjoying himself. Our intelligence indicates at least 12 species in the past 2 centuries. The Kythara were absorbed 40 years ago after a similar peaceful contact scenario. The Delvani Commonwealth fell to you 60 years ago. Should I continue? Thalos's entire body seemed to dim. How do you know these things? We don't just build battleships, Fleet Commander. We also gather intelligence. Humanity has been preparing for this day since we first detected your expansion patterns. Ambassador Chen leaned forward. They've been studying the Zephyrians for years? Vasquez nodded. Apparently so. We were the diplomatic face, but Earth Command was ready for war if necessary. Captain Steele continued his negotiations. Third, you will establish genuine diplomatic relations with humanity. Not as a superior species guiding primitives, but as equals. Trade agreements, cultural exchanges, and mutual defense pacts. And if we refuse, Thalos asked weakly, then you can explain to your collective council why their expansion plans just hit a major obstacle, Steele replied. Because I should mention, Fleet Commander, that you're not the only ones with ships in enemy territory. The communication channel switched to show Admiral Martinez back at Earth Command. Fleet Commander Thalos, this is Admiral Martinez of Earth Defense Command. I'm forwarding you some coordinates. Data streamed across the displays. Dr. Kim's eyes widened as she read the information. Those are coordinates in Zephyrian space, near their home system. Admiral Martinez continued. At this moment, 4 human battleships are positioned within striking distance of your 3 most important worlds. They've been there for 2 weeks, completely undetected by your forces. Thalos's light patterns went almost completely dark. When he spoke, his voice was barely a whisper. Impossible. Our sensors would have detected any ships. Your sensors are designed to detect your own technology, Martinez replied. Human cloaking systems work on completely different principles. We've been learning about you for much longer than you've been studying us. Captain Steele's voice returned. So you see, Fleet Commander, this was never about one diplomatic ship meeting 3 of your vessels. This is about two interstellar powers negotiating from positions of strength. Vasquez felt a chill of realization. They've been planning this for years, she said quietly. Ambassador Chen nodded slowly. We weren't just making first contact. We were bait in a much larger trap. Dr. Kim added her own analysis, and it worked perfectly. The Zephyrians revealed their true intentions while human forces moved into position throughout their space. Fleet Commander Thalos seemed to have aged decades in the span of minutes. When he finally spoke again, his words came slowly and carefully. What are your terms for peace? Simple, Captain Steele replied. Complete transparency about your Empire's activities. Release of all species currently under forced integration. Establishment of neutral zones between your space and the territories of free species. And formal recognition that the age of easy conquest is over. The Collective Council will never agree to such terms, Thalos protested. Then they can explain to their people why their three most important worlds are now in range of human weapons. Admiral Martinez said calmly. We're not asking them to surrender their empire, Fleet Commander. We're asking them to stop expanding it through deception and slavery. Hours of negotiation followed. Gradually, the terms of a new agreement took shape. The Zephyrian Collective would maintain their existing territory, but end their expansion through false peaceful contact. Species currently under forced integration would be given the choice to remain or leave. Trade and cultural exchanges would be conducted openly and honestly. Most importantly, other species would be warned about Zephyrian tactics, ending their ability to use peaceful contact as a cover for conquest. As the negotiations concluded, Captain Steele arranged for a formal meeting aboard the Harmony. Fleet Commander Thalos arrived with a small delegation, looking nothing like the confident being who had first appeared on their screens. Ambassador Chen, despite everything that had happened, managed to conduct the final ceremony with dignity. The treaty was signed by representatives of both species, establishing what historians would later call the Kepler Accords. This is not how we expected first contact to proceed, Thalos admitted as the ceremony concluded. No, Captain Steele replied, but it's how it needed to proceed. Humanity learned long ago that we must hope for peace while preparing for war. Dr. Kim approached the alien commander. Your species is not evil, Fleet Commander, but your methods were wrong. Perhaps now we can find better ways to interact with the galaxy. Thalos looked at her with what might have been respect. Your species is unexpected. Most civilizations we encounter are either too primitive to resist or too advanced to care about others. You are something new. We're survivors, Vasquez said simply. We've learned that the universe can be beautiful and terrible. We prepare for both. As the Zephyrian delegation departed, the human ships watched them go. The crystalline vessels that had once seemed so threatening now looked merely elegant. The balance of power had shifted permanently. Ambassador Chen stood on the bridge of the Harmony, looking out at the stars. Do you think this will hold, the peace agreement? Captain Steele's voice came over the communication system. The Zephyrians are practical. They'll honor the agreement because the alternative is war with an enemy they can't defeat easily. And other species? Vasquez asked. When word spreads that humanity can fight back? Then maybe the galaxy will become a more interesting place, Steele replied, where peaceful contact actually means peace, and strength is respected. Dr. Kim smiled as she watched the stars. Humanity had reached out in friendship and been ready for betrayal. They had hoped for the best and prepared for the worst. It was, she thought, a very human way to meet the universe.